Hospital Porter's pride and dignity, stop the New World Order, welcome to her Panwo TV, and welcome to Radcliffe Square in Oxford. Now, I've done a video here before, a little while ago, called the sexiest place in Oxford, because I noted recurring patterns in architectural symbolism, and one of those is the masculine phallic symbol, the obelisk, whatever you call it, which is that. Look at the size of that, eh? God, my eyes are watering. And this, the dome shape, which is feminine, it symbolises the womb or vagina. It's a female sexual symbol, and you often find the two together. And I did a whole video about why that is, and you can see it. It's the link in the description box as always. It is called the sexiest place in Oxford, which is basically between these two buildings, the Radcliffe Camera and St Mary's Church with its tower. Now, the reason I come back is because there's a second set. Someone has made me aware of something that's it's so in your face. I'm surprised I never spotted it for myself. The thing about it is, I must stress, I didn't make this discovery. Somebody else did. Okay, and this person doesn't want to be named, but they must take the credit for this discovery. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to give you my own take on it, and a few other things that I've noticed as well. So we'll proceed to a place where there is a second set of male and female sexual symbols. And there it is. We're now approaching the second most sexy place in Oxford, or maybe the first, what is it? The other first most sexy place in Oxford, whatever you like. I don't know. Whatever turns you on, whatever floats your boat, I don't know. Your private life is your business. But we have here a very interesting pair of structures here. Now, on the left is the dome. Now, that's not a complete dome. It's actually more a pudding basin shaped structure, and it is actually the old Castle Mound. That is actually one of the oldest structures in Oxford. It was constructed in I think it was in the 10th century. Oh no, yeah, it was in the 11th century. Just soon after the Norman conquest, and you have here like that. There's not part of the castle. That's called Oxford Castle, and that there's I think that's used to be the courthouse. I don't know what it is now, but that is the remains of what was a Motte and Bailey castle. Now that means that this mound would have had something built on top of it. It would have like a big fortress built on top of it, probably a wooden structure. It was like these things when the things needed to be built in a hurry, and some of the older castles were made that way before they had stone castles. It was replaced by stone castles. I'll show you a bit of the old stone castle, which came a couple of hundred years later. But inside, what's interesting is you go into there, you go to the top of there, and there's like some steps that lead downwards, and there's like an underground chamber. It's very difficult. In fact, it's so small that they don't let people under a certain size go in. I couldn't go in because I'm too big. I'm a big, ugly ex-hospital porter, so I couldn't get in. Now, I don't know how much you can see of the original. There's not much you can see of it, actually. But that old building, that old wall behind those battlements-like things, which are just designer things, really, is the remains of the old city wall. Maybe we'll get a better view of it when we get down to the bottom of the road. But, that's one of the oldest structures in Oxford. What happened was there'd be like a bailey, which would be like I think that's a Scottish word, I think, which would be like a courtyard, and then there'd be a wall around that, which would be called a palisade. It's made of wooden stakes mostly. They've just done this area up. I'll go in and have a look at this in a minute, but that used to be Oxford Prison. And it's been turned into a hotel, and they've got all kinds of other things around here. It's the usual. There's the Slug and Lettuce restaurant, which is a weird name for a restaurant, I must say. And there's several other conference centres, etc., etc. But the prison itself is now, well, part of it is a museum, and you can go in there and have a look around, which I've done, and part of it is the hotel. So that's the feminine side of this little equation, of this little sexual energy generator. The masculine side is one of the newest buildings in Oxford, and it's this here. This is Nuffield College, and look at that, man. Look, wow, Sexy. I feel inadequate, I really do. That's one big willy, isn't it? Yeah. But that's 150 feet high, that is, to the top of the spire. Now, this is one of Oxford's newest colleges, actually. It's Nuffield. It's, I think only Green is newer. You can't see much from here, but that's basically that there is a library. The whole thing there is a library. The public can't go in there, unfortunately. It must be quite a view from the top. It's the newest of the dreaming spires, and the famous dreaming spires of Oxford. And so you have here this. Sorry about the noise of the bus. Yeah, this is a Sunday morning. Actually, it's the only time you can actually film in this part of Oxford, because all other times it's too damn noisy, too much traffic around. But that there is the masculine side of things. This Nuffield College was built in 1937, I believe. It was founded in 1937. It's a postgraduate college. It's quite a small college. There's only about 70 students. They're all postgraduates, and one of them, believe it or not, is George Soros. The George Soros, yeah, funder of all these rioters in America, Hillary Clinton's best buddy, etc., etc. Now I can actually show you the old castle now, a bit more of the old castle. That's the old city wall. Because I think this was all blown up in the Civil War. I mean, there was this was like the big royalist stronghold in the Civil War, Oxford. And the king lived probably in this area somewhere for a while. He might have lived in that. No, that's not old enough, that building. But he might have lived there for a while. So yeah, it's weird. So let's. I don't know if you. Oh, I'm walking between the. It's not doing anything for me. I'm not getting a sudden rush of sexual energy as I walk between this big willy and this big fanny. But isn't it odd, isn't it? Right, we have one of the oldest structures in Oxford. And you can go. The public can go into that. Actually, they have opened it. Now, when I was a kid, I actually climbed up this. I was a bit naughty. Because this you can actually climb. They didn't have this fence, and when I was a kid I actually climbed over there, and I climbed up to the top of it. When I got in there, you could actually see into what was then the prison, which is not a prison anymore. Go and have a look in there. Actually, let's go and have a look in there. It's going to cross the road, but now of course it is open to the public. It used not to be open to the public, which is why it was a bit of it was very exciting to climb up it. Discover Oxford, we see Oxford Castle. Another look at Nuffield College Tower. Yes, that's a dreaming spire. There's a lot of dreaming spires. That's the newest one. And this here is, you can see a bit more of it now here, see? So, it's curious, isn't it? It's what I find curious is that you get two structures. One of them's very old. One of them was built in the 11th century. It's almost 1,000 years old. And the other is built in 1937. This was all started. It was finished after the war. So that's quite recent. By Oxford standards, that's quite a new building. Very strange, that, isn't it? It's yeah. Because what I mean to say is, you get these symbols, these sexual pairs, in architecture that's obviously created a long time apart. Do you know what I mean? Whoever built this didn't have any communication with whoever built that. Whoever built this, simply because they lived 1,000 years apart. Do you know what I mean? There's not much to see down here except there's the old city wall there, and there's part of the prison, which is part of it's a museum and part of the whole hotel room. So if you want to stay in Oxford and stay at the Oxford prison, the Oxford Castle Hotel, you might find it a little bit. Well, the rooms look a little bit like prison cells. They have bars on the window and stuff like that. And in the morning, the hotel staff, they come along and the bells ring and they say, "Come on, let's be having you." So yeah, but I'll go and have a look around the other side. I just thought it's very, very odd. It's almost as if the two architects, a millennium apart, were inspired by the same drives. In other words, they were compelled to put certain shapes into their creations, even though they were a long way, even though they never a long way apart. It's almost like a subconscious thing, an etheric thing, a archetypal thing. Now, one of my earliest videos, actually, you can see it. It's called, I think it's the Illuminati symbolism in Oxford. It's where I deal with the Knights Templar symbolism in Temple Cowley, Oxford. Let's see how far I get before the security guard throw me out. Let's say there's a conspiracy theorist filming in the courtyard. But there's this slug and lettuce place, and it's called Malmaison. The Malmaison Hotel, yeah. Wow. So, you can see it used to be a clink, can't you? I mean, there's no doubt about it. I think they've actually preserved it in its original formation to make it so they haven't actually changed it. I think it's a listed building, actually. I think it's grade 1 listed, so they can't actually fiddle with the architecture too much, the general shape of the building. Yes, that is the hotel here. Now, as I said, you see, the Knights Templar created there's a whole part of Oxford called Temple Cowley, which is a whole district of Oxford, in the east of Oxford, not far from where I live, actually. I don't live in Temple Cowley, but I live about 10 minutes walk away from there. And there was a Knights Templar lodge in what is now the Public Records Office, which, well, I'll tell you what, I'll put a link in the description box again, alright, and you can see it. But it's one of my earliest videos. I think I made it about 2008. And again, you get strange symbols. You get the pyramid, the Illuminati pyramid with the detached capstone and the all-seeing eye. I'm just going to cross over again. And you get that in old buildings, because there's the periods of construction date from sort of, I'd say, the early 19th century to late 20th. So there's over about 150 years between the first constructions there and the newest. Yet you see the same symbolism in the architecture. Absolutely remarkable. Now, I'm just going to give you a heads up for a future film I'm sure I'm going to make. They're actually recreating Westgate Centre. They've been talking about this for years. They're actually doing it. I think they've been working on this now for about 2 years. Because I remember, because when the English Defence League came through here, they had already shut it up. That was like 2 years ago, and they shut it up and they started rebuilding. I didn't film at the EDL rally. No, what I did was I wrote an article about it. I actually went along and I wrote like a report on it. But that bit's the same. That still looks the same. But this is going to be a massive new shopping complex. And I'm going to go in there and just see if there's... Obviously, I'll check it for Illuminati symbolism when it's open. But it's just, to me, it's indicative of what Andy Thomas talks about, because he made this point. I mean, what is the purpose of this construction other than consumerism? And I mean, Andy Thomas said, you know, that we don't build anything now in our society unless it's for purely material purposes. Like, all the great architecture of the modern world is dedicated to materialism. Either these, for instance, this, I'll just give a little glimpse inside. If you go back centuries or thousands of years, the great architecture was spiritual in nature. It was cathedrals, it was the pyramids of Egypt, it was Stonehenge. These obviously had spiritual functions. See here, there's a big list of Oxford history along here, yeah, just to keep people amused before they go and start consuming again. I don't know how much you can see through here. The buses, I can't cross over, there's no pavement. I'll try and cross over in a minute, there's a bus coming. But I can sort of see what this is going to look like. It's probably going to have a wall of glass here. There's going to be two big tall towers, lots of brand names, up and down things. Let's cross over. So you can see here, it's got this big open atrium space. And it's funny, isn't it? 'Cause as Andy Thomas said, all the great skyscrapers are like tower blocks of offices. This is a temple to consume. This is going to be a temple to consumerism. It's big open space. It's going to be cathedral-like, but we don't build cathedrals anymore for spiritual purposes. The only buildings we construct which in any way match or approach the majesty of the old cathedrals of the Middle Ages is these temples to consumerism, these huge vaulted ceiling atria, these giant sort of like barrel vaulted roofs with massive open spaces and sort of like internal floor space and stuff like that, with shops all along the walls and on different levels. It is a cathedral, but the god is money and things. That's a shame, isn't it? But I'll be checking that out later for symbolism. Anyway, there's a little bit more. There's more to this story, because the strange new things that my friend discovered about Oxford do not end with what I've just shown you. Yes, there is indeed an awful lot more to tell when it comes to this story. But let's begin by looking at a map of Oxford. Now, the first thing that strikes you about Oxford is it is vaguely cross-shaped. It's basically the built-up areas go to the north and south and east and west. Yet it's not completely north, south, east, west. It's off the cardinal points. This is an important issue, right? And it's very, very difficult to measure precisely. But I'm very interested in the angle by which Oxford is offset from the cardinal points of the compass. The reason is I wouldn't be surprised if Oxford is offset by 19.47 degrees. Of course, that is a very, very difficult thing to measure, but I think it still might be. And this is just an example. This is just a very, very vague gauge here that you're looking at right now. Now, the reason this is significant is because well, you have to read. There's several books been written about this. Goro Adachi has talked about this, so you can look at his website. That basically it's to do with the internal esoteric geometry of the Earth. Now, if you place a tetrahedron inside the Earth with the points touching the surface, or in any sphere, you place a tetrahedron inside any sphere with the points touching the surface, and one of the points is on the pole, one of the poles. The other 3 points will touch at the latitude opposite of 19.47. And you get an awful lot of strange things. When you apply this to the actual Earth, and indeed other planets of the solar system, you see something strange happens. For example, this is the 19.47 is the latitude of Hawaii, which is the biggest volcano in the world. Basically, the main island of Hawaii is the biggest volcano in the world. Now, you might say, well, that's just a coincidence. But is it also a coincidence if you go to Mars and you put 19.47 north, you find Olympus Mons. Now, Olympus Mons is the biggest known volcano in the solar system. It's huge. It's the size of France. It's 3 times the height of Everest, I believe. It's an enormous volcano. Now, again, you could say that's just a coincidence, Ben. It's just a coincidence. Well, is it a coincidence also that it's the latitude of the Great Bend in the River Nile, the Great Red Spot on Jupiter, the Great Dark Spot on Neptune, most of the sunspots on the Sun? The list goes on. So this is why the 19.47 thing is very, very interesting. The angle 19.47 is encoded into an awful lot of ancient monuments and things like this, and things like the Avebury Mars Mirror. You might have seen Richard Hoagland talking about this, about how the Avebury complex in Wiltshire, England, is basically a scale model of some artificial structures on the surface of Mars, yet it is offset by 19.47 degrees. So they're telling us the importance of tetrahedrons, the importance of this internal geometry when it comes to the Earth, and how it does have an effect on the physical planet. This is why you get these upwellings of energy that cause these huge volcanoes to form, not just on Earth, but on Mars as well, and the Great Red Spot on Jupiter, this storm that's been raging for, well, at least 600 years since it was discovered. It's just you could say it's a coincidence, but then, you know, the skeptics, well, what couldn't be a coincidence? And, you know, it becomes a kind of like, well, you know, anything could be a coincidence, and it's a get out of jail free card for the skeptics. I've talked about this before and on previous videos. Just check out my skeptic video. Skeptics, who are they, why they were, and why does it matter? Now let's look at another picture of Oxford. This is a close-up of the Oxford city centre. Now, Oxford is centred, like I said, the crossroads. This crossroads is roughly 19.47, and like I say, that's just a very rough estimate of the offset from the cardinal points that the main roads in Oxford are. The larger cross, which is the basic structure of the city of Oxford, is repeated in a smaller version within the city centre, within the core of Oxford. Now, the core of Oxford, at the very heart of Oxford, you find Carfax. Carfax is the main crossroads from which all the road distances are measured. It's the official centre of Oxford, and it's at Carfax actually where the anti-Trump protest was that I filmed a couple of weeks ago. Now, on the right there, you can see St Mary's, the St Mary's Tower, the church. Now, it's actually marked on the map anyway, the University Church of St Mary the Virgin. Anyway, but I put in another marker there just to make it clearer. Also, the castle you can see there. Now, there's New Road where I was, where you saw me, and it's Oxford Castle is marked there. That large green circular bit there, where just at the end of the arrow is the old motte. It is the castle mound, and there on the just above it is Nuffield College. Now, it's not exact. Now, it would have been a lot more significant if the castle and Nuffield College had been maybe a couple of 100 yards further south. Then you would have a complete matchup. It would almost be like some kind of zodiac. It'd be like some kind of the marking out of stars on the ground, which some of the ancients used to do. Because then you would have a straight line all the way up the high street from St Mary's, all the way along to the castle. So you would have your sexy spot on the east and the sexy spot on the west. Right in the middle would be Carfax. But all the same, I think it's still significant. I mean, in a sense, this is paying tribute to the cardinal points, which is strange because the cross of the general structure of Oxford is offset by 19.47 degrees or thereabouts. Yet Nuffield and the castle are literally due west of St Mary's. And it's the way Oxford has been, I hesitate to use the word, but designed. As I said, I use the word design in its broadest possible form, meaning, because as I said earlier, you have we're dealing with people who never met, people who lived centuries apart, coming up with these same structures. But it is as if they've been guided by something archetypal. There's a grand plan for the city, which the architects of different generations subconsciously fulfill without knowing they're doing it. I made this point in my Knights Templar video where I was talking about Temple Cowley and the symbolism there. So you have here, as you see, a very, very strange. You have this vague offset cross, by this sacred number. It is a sacred number because it is a mathematical constant of 19.47 degrees based on geometry, the tetrahedron inside the sphere. Or if you a two-dimensional version would be a triangle inside a circle. You could draw one yourself, put an equilateral triangle inside a circle with the points touching the edges. Make one of them the South Pole or North Pole, and then see where. You measure it for yourself. The other points would touch at 19.47 degrees exactly. So this is strange. We have this offset cross in the design of the city, with a point or a structure on the eastern side which generates sexual energy, and a structure on the western side that generates sexual energy. Very, very interesting indeed. It can't be coincidence in my view. Now this is a picture. It's a blow up of it's basically showing the east of Oxford, the east side of Oxford. It's a kind of blow up here. Now what I'm making you aware of now, again this is information from a friend of mine who doesn't wish to be named, is that there are two churches. There are two churches in the east of Oxford, and one is on the southeast and one is on the northeast extremity of the city. There's St Nicholas's Church in Old Marston and St Mary's the Virgin's Church in Iffley. Now, what's interesting about these churches is they're two of the oldest churches in Oxford. They were built in the 1160s by the St Ramy's family, with financed by funds from the De Clintons, so that's probably something to do with Hillary Clinton's great grandmother or something. And they're Romanesque. They're both very, very similar in style, and they're both very, very important historically They're really amazing buildings. I mean, I was going to take my camera and go and film there, but I mean, there's not much I can really show you, particularly with the camera. However, I'll show you some photos of them. Now, the one on the top is St Mary the Virgin Ifley. The one on the bottom of St Nicholas, Old Marston. You can see they're very old churches, and they are arranged very, very interesting point. I mean, these were built roughly about the same time. They're in the same era, in the sort of 12th century, the mid 12th century. And as you see from the previous picture, if you go back there for a moment, they are pretty much north and south of each other. They pretty much on the same. They're on the same basic longitude, the same meridian. St Nicholas to the north, St Mary's to the south. You could draw a line. It's virtually north-south. Now, you could say, well, there's all kinds of churches in Oxford. There's loads of them. They're everywhere. I mean, in fact, it's true. There are over 20 churches in Oxford. However, there are none that are as old or as important, sort of historically, as these. All the others are either newer or they're less amazing. Basically, they're less interesting. So things of the 12th century is when the Knights Templar were very active in Oxford as well, and that's of course something I've covered on a previous video, my Knights Templar video, Illuminati Architecture in Oxford. Now, what I think is very important here is that it's basically that it does seem like some kind of plan. We have the cross section, the cross of Oxford, offset 19.47. We have the two sexy spots, east and west, in the city centre, on the cardinal points, with the offset cross in the middle, and we have the two churches to the east. It can be represented something like this. So this, you might say, is an occult energetic map of Oxford. The black cross represents the actual city itself, offset by, this is a purely qualitative thing, I haven't measured it exactly, offset by roughly 19.47 degrees. You have the two sexy spots to the east and west, the big masculine obelisk and the feminine dome, and then you have the old churches there, possibly Knights Templar churches. I'll have to look into the backgrounds of the De Clintons and the Remys and see if they had anything to do with Knights Templar, because I mean, the thing about it is the Knights Templar actually were the Remy actually is a Knights Templar name, I believe. So it's very, very interesting what we're seeing here. This is basically what I've discovered so far. No doubt there'll be more. There will be an update on this. There has to be, because there has to be more. I mean, the Illuminati are far more thorough than they are just in this way. I mean, they'll probably put in more and more of this. Don't forget, near the eastern sexy spot, there is the Magdalen College with the reptile in, the reptilian statue. To the east there, roughly where, well, it's about where that red dot is the Knights Templar Preceptory. So we'll have to just see what that means. Just have to see where we go from here. But I'll be keeping an eye out for this, and there will be updates, I'm sure. So there's a lot more to Oxford than meets the eye, isn't there? I mean, here I stand with Magdalen College behind me, and Magdalen College, of course, was where that reptilian statue was, like the ones David Icke talks about. So that's, if you remember that one. I'm not going to put all these links in the description box, it's too many. But there's an awful lot more to say about this subject. So I'm shouting because there's traffic starting now. No doubt there'll be other videos like this one, especially when the Westgate Centre opens, and maybe some other things as well. This esoteric element to Oxford is continuing, not least because I've just found out that Philip Pullman has written a new book. Philip Pullman wrote the Dark Materials trilogy, which is a sort of like story about Oxford, which covers multiple dimensions and parallel universes and things like that. So I've only scratched the surface today, like I have before. There's still much more to talk about, and I will be talking about it. So thanks for watching Hapanwo TV. Hospital Porters, Pride and Dignity, Stop the New World Order.